everyone, I'm Julie from Julie's Everything Treasures, and I would like to say welcome. I'm here in BC, Canada, in Chilliwack on the west coast of Canada, and we are halfway on this chair that I started on Wednesday on my chat and craft time. And I'm just going to move this camera a little. I don't know why it's so dark on this one. Maybe move this one a little bit and then move this one a little bit. But it's pretty dark. I don't know. Anyway, welcome, hello to everyone on my Facebook Live and hello to everyone on my YouTube. Sorry in YouTube if it's a little dark. I'm not sure why, but seems fine actually on the Facebook. So we'll see what happens there. See how it goes. And also anyone that's watching on my website, this will go on my website tomorrow because it usually takes me a day to load it onto the website, and I don't put all my videos on there, I just put some of them. And hello Debbie, welcome. If you want to pop on and say hello and maybe where you're from, or if you've got any questions, put them in the comments. If you're watching on replay, please put in the comments on replay that hashtag replay, and if you've got any questions again, just put them in the comments there. It's nice to see people that after the live, who's watching, who's interested, and especially if you've got any concerns, questions of how certain parts I do anything. Hey Terry, how are you doing? Hope you're having a good time. And Terry, you're on the west coast. So what do you think of our weather? I know you're not too far away from me, but we had snow yesterday for a little while. Not much snow, but I can't believe April, and we had snow yesterday. We had sun yesterday. We had rain yesterday. We had hailstones yesterday. I didn't see a rainbow, and it wasn't windy, but we pretty much had everything yesterday, and almost the same a bit today too. So here on the west coast of Canada, it's definitely spring because we get a little bit of everything. Hello Carol, how are you doing? So I'm going to get straight on with doing this because I do want to try and get this finished today, but I may not get it all finished. We'll see. If I don't get it all finished, then I will pop on quickly on Monday and show you the updates, the finish and everything else. But I'm hoping to get it done today, but I also don't like to rush things, as you know. So I did wipe off where I had the Vaseline. So basically on Wednesday I put Vaseline in all the places I didn't want my paint to stick. So I put it all in different areas on the chair. And then I put on with a brush different colours, and this is basically all the background, the coat. I have not done the top coat yet. I have not done the colour this chair is going to be. This is just all going to be in the background. Most of it is going to be coloured. I've used different colours because I want some of it to pop through and I want it to have a little bit of texture. Now the reason I wiped off the Vaseline is because I did this Wednesday and now it's Saturday and I didn't want it to not work. So I wiped it all down, and you can see here where the paint did not go on because it had Vaseline on it. It worked really good. The one thing I would do maybe next time is I think I would put more on and make it even more distressed. Anyway, I wiped it dry, and then today I've reapplied the Vaseline in all those areas so we can continue, and it's got a fresh layer of Vaseline. So we're basically back to what you know. So what I'm going to do now is go back on with some Vaseline in some areas on top of the paint that I don't want the top coat to cover. If it pulls off some of the paint, that's okay, because I wanted it more distressed than this anyway, so if this happens to take off some of the actual base colour, I'm okay with that too. But I'm going to put it on just little bits, different parts of the paint, just so that I have areas that the top coat will not touch and it will show through. And if I can try maybe to just tip it forward a bit here, I've got some areas where the blue and the green kind of just dry brush together a little bit. Those are kind of the areas I want to see through, that dry brush stroke areas. I don't want the thick stuff, I want the thin stuff to be showing through, and a little tiny bit of the white as well. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to go over areas where it's got some interest. I don't want a lot, just a little. You don't want it everywhere. And just make sure you have the different colours, you know, so you've got a bit of interest, and especially where some of the colours have maybe blended a little, because that makes it even more interesting. So I'm just going to rub up this on in some areas. I like the green, so I want to make sure some of the green comes through, especially on the edges. And I'm just going over some of it. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. I don't always see the questions. Hi Kathy, how are you doing? But I do check back later and answer any questions I've missed. And if you can sprinkle and maybe even just share this page for me, this live for me, that would be much appreciated, because right now it's hard to sell anything out of my little home store, so all I'm doing right now is spending time painting and finishing products and building the back end of my business, so my Facebook, my YouTube, and getting some videos going and getting some people to come join me online and see what I'm getting up to and spend the time kind of building up just basically my back end of my business and spend that time. I've also been on the back end of my business doing some blogs. So if you haven't on my website, it's a lot to remember. On my website, julieseverythingtreasures.com, I have a blog section. If you haven't read my blogs, maybe pop over. There's different blogs. There's some about me, some about my business, some about displays, crafting, decorating, displaying, all the different kinds of blogs, and I'll be doing some more soon. And I'm doing a lot of that kind of thing too right now while I have the time, because as I say, it's not really an easy time to sell right now. So I'm just going to go over some bits here that I don't want the paint to go on and have some interest poking through. As I say, if this pulls up some of the base coat, I'm okay with that too. That's no big deal. And if I'm doing any bulk areas, I want it to be the green because I want that to pop through. Kind of like in this part here, so I think I'll go heavy here and see if that'll just stay. I'm just going to do the back here quickly, won't be a minute. Alright, so for the next part, thank you Terry, that's really nice of you, I really do appreciate that, thank you. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is show you the colour I'm thinking of doing this. So basically, I think this one I got from Michaels a while back, I like this colour. And let's see, what's it called? It's called Cascade, and it's a folk art chalk paint. So there you go. So I'm going to just give it a little shake. I already shook it a little bit before I came on, and I loosened the top because I find quite often I can't get the top off. See, there's the colour. This is going to be our top coat. So what I'm going to do is pour some into here because we're not using a brush. Now this technique I have seen a few times, and then when I went to research it, I could not find very much of how to do it. I got the basics, but I wasn't quite sure how to do it. So we are going to experiment right now. You're doing it with me here. First time I've ever done this. And let's have some fun. And if it's going to be great, if it turns out wonderful, great. If it's a fail, that's fine, because we're learning, right? That's the whole point. So what I want to do is what they call the block painting. And it's basically using a wooden block to put the paint on with. Now what I've done, just to make it easier on my hands, because I do have arthritis, I actually stuck a top on my block so I can grip it a little bit easier. I don't know if it'll work, I don't know if it'll be good, but that's how I felt that I wanted to do this. I wanted to be able to try that. So if this works really well, make sure you look back on this video how I did this. I just stuck on a lid top, just a bit better grip. And if it fails, then don't re-look and don't do it. So what I'm going to do is get the paint onto the block and then take some off. I don't need it to be really dripping, but I do want it to be quite a good coverage, because this is going to be what colour this is going to be. And what I've seen so far is that you don't just rub up and down, you go in one direction, moving the block so that you have some touching and some not. So I don't know if it's going to work very easily on a chair, I don't know if it's going to work at all, but it's kind of exciting, right? Let's see what happens, shall we? Let's see if I make a mess. So I'm going to start at the top here and just work my way down. When you find that it starts to get a little bit less, like you could see, just pop some more colour on. What do you think? Liking it? You want to make sure that when you do it, you lift the block up so that you have some areas that don't have any. And making sure I go down to the bottom here. So I'm just going to put some on the bottom. What do you think of that? Yeah, I am liking the results. Now, my way of doing things, I tend to just do too much. So I think I'm going to kind of just go over some of the areas that don't have any paint. But I don't want to go too much, because I'm actually liking it myself. I'm doing these side bits, but I did put a lot, actually, of the Vaseline on the sides, because I wanted the wood to shine through on the sides. So. Now I'm going to try here and tip the chair and do it at the same time, okay? So bear with me on this, I'm trying to do it at a good angle for you guys, but as I say, I'm doing something here that I have never done before. So I'm kind of experimenting with you. need some more paint, just for the sake that the dish I'm using is hard to get it out of the bottom of the dish. But as I say, I'm experimenting with this, having fun with this. Yes, that's what I'm going for, the rustic kind of chippy look, but using Vaseline for showing the wood through, and using basically a wooden block instead of using a brush on the top coat. From what I kind of researched on this, try and do it in one motion, so you're going the same way. It's hard to do on a chair to go the same way because of all the different angles, but if you've got a flat part, definitely try and go the same way. Now don't forget, when this is all completely dry and I rub back, some of this will come off because I've got the Vaseline underneath. So we will have less. So I'm trying to make sure I cover well because some of it will come off, right? Okay, I'm going to try and turn the chair around without getting too much paint on me so that I'm not going behind the chair for you guys to carry on seeing what I'm doing here and try and get the different angles. Also finding with the block that if there's parts I don't like, I can just, with the edge, almost scratch it back off. Sorry that it's making a lot of knocking noise, but just the angles of the legs, I am hitting wood on wood. Yeah, I'm liking this. Okay, I'm going to try and turn it again, if I can. Without getting too much on my hands. Chippy look here you're getting is a lot to do with the block I'm using, but it's also a lot to do with there is the Vaseline underneath and it's not going on those areas where I've put the Vaseline thick. It's not even touching those areas. I need to load up more paint. The one thing I am finding, this suits me really good for the fact that I'm getting it everywhere, and I usually do anyway, so this technique kind of just makes that happen. Now under here, I might go in with my fingers, we'll see, because I can't get the block in there. If you're doing it and you want to do something with the, like all wood, maybe have different size blocks, I'm not sure, haven't really tested that out. Is it too noisy for you guys? Almost all the way around, and then we'll just check on places I didn't get it. Hi Sharon, how are you doing? Oh, thank you Sheila, it's not too noisy. And as you can see, there are places that I'm not getting easily, but as you can see what I'm using instead. And I find when I'm painting, if all else fails, these are what I use, and I'm okay with that because it's nice to touch what you're painting and kind of really get into it. Now I did do one kind of silly thing. I actually showered and washed my hair before I came on, just so I could get it done today, and I'm realising my hair's all going in the paint. So tip number one, wash your hair after you've painted, or tie it up. Almost all the way around. Just smudged it a little there with my hands. Got some drippage there. So let's see if I can get the last of this paint instead of pouring more out. Okay, this is where you guys come in from your help. As I've said, I'm the type that I'll just keep going and keep going. So should I keep going and put more on, or shall I leave it and see what happens? put more on, or just this looks good? What do you think? Do we need more top coat, or do you think there's enough on there? Just going to wipe my hands with a baby wipe while I see in the comments if anybody can help me decide whether we need to add more or not. Leave it, I want to see it finish. Oh, yeah, no, I'm kind of excited to see what it comes out like. What I am going to do, because it is wet, I'm going to try this. I haven't done it. I brought my heater in that I usually have in my garage, and I'm just going to put that on to try and see if I can get this dry. If it's too noisy, tell me, I will turn it off. And let's try and get this dry. And while that's doing, I'll try and get some of this paint off my hands. Oop. And throw my baby wipe at you guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So, while we're waiting for this to dry, what have you guys been up to today? It's the weekend. What have you been up to? That's a good idea, Kathy. Just to let you know though, once you wipe it back, you've wiped the Vaseline off. So if you want to go back in and add more of any of the colours, you want to re-put the Vaseline back on, because you don't want it dry in the areas that you want the background, whether it's the wood from the chair or the background of the colours to show through. So any time that you've wiped off and you want to add back on, even if it's sections, then make sure that you put the Vaseline back on, okay? Or else you're going to not have the same effect. But I'm just going to grab that heater and see if I can get this dry. You watch a live, so have I. Sheila, who have you been watching? I've actually been back to back watching Jamie Ray Vintage. I like some of her things with Zeb. I've been watching those. Who have you been watching? Oh. Old lady getting up, guys. Getting up off the knees is never easy to do. Well, I don't want to burn this, but I do want to try and dry it, so I'll see if I can read stuff while I'm here. Ah. Now I'm finding this is taking a while to dry, for the reason that using a block actually puts the paint on thick. So if you're rushing, just let yourself know that the paint does go on thicker. But it's starting to dry now. It won't look completely dry everywhere, because anywhere there was Vaseline, then those areas will not dry anyway. So don't wait for the whole thing to dry, because that's just not going to happen. Sorry, this is a little bit boring for you guys, so maybe you can tell each other some jokes. That might be good. And if you're on replay, you can always fast forward this part. That's what I tend to do when I'm on replay and someone's trying something. I fast forward it because I just want to see the end. I want to see what happens. It's like a scary movie. It's like, ooh, what's going to happen? Well, it's drying quite nicely, but it's going to take a little while in some of the thicker areas. So I'll have to just bear with that. Come back down here and see if I can see any comments. Oh, okay. I'll have to try that out, yeah. Yeah, I'm always looking for different people to watch, different techniques, different ways of doing things, so yeah, it's always good to tell each other who's good to watch and what their actually specialty is always good. It's still quite tacky, sorry guys. But I'm determined to get this done today. I should have maybe brought my blow dryer, but I think that would have been really noisy. Just trying to get rid of some of the drips on it, because those will take a while to dry. But it's getting there. Yeah, the dry parts on the back here are actually dry. And on the top, the dry parts are pretty dry. Let's get some of the top done, because that'll be the most revealing, is that flat part. Has anybody actually tried this technique before, or heard of it before? Okay, Kathy, yeah. The Vaseline, I think that's a really old method. I remember seeing that in the 80s and 90s, which is now showing my age, but in the 90s I even saw the Vaseline technique used quite a bit before you know, the chalk paint became popular, the wet distressing or even sanding. So yeah, I've seen that before. The block part, as I said, I've seen it a few times, but not often. So I'm going to keep that on, but I'm actually going to, what I've got is, this is really old, but it's an old like face towel. So this is what I'm going to use as my dry cloth. And I think the back here and the top here is pretty much dry enough for me to wipe back and see what happens. So I'm going to do that. And what we're doing is we're revealing back the parts that were the wood. I'll try and bring you in a bit closer, and then just revealing some of the background. See if I can turn this again this way. I don't know if you can see me doing this better, but that's what we've got going on so far. What do you think? How you thought it would be? Let's see if I've got some, I guess, along here. Should be dry now. I've had the heater right on it. Oops. I'm finding with the dry cloth you have to keep moving it around because the Vaseline gets it a little bit damp. This leg's still wet. This one's not. On this leg, right down this leg. And I think we need to turn it around so we can get some of this side dry. Oop. Ugh. That's better. Try and bring it closer to you guys so you can see better what I'm doing. I'm just wiping where I think there'll be Vaseline, basically, is what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just going to go over the whole thing. I'm going to step back and answer that in just 1 minute. I'm just going to go over the whole thing one more time with the dry cloth because I want to make sure all this Vaseline is off. And then we'll step back and have a look. Is it enough of the blue for you, Kathy? Alright, I need a baby wipe and I certainly need to turn this heater off because the heater is making me feel like I'm having a hot flash and I'm not. I'm just almost sweating from that heater because I was so close to it. Anyway, let's see. You know what I like the amount of blue. I think what I would do next time, if I was trying to be a perfectionist, and I tend to be hard on myself, so bear with me on that because I am hard on myself. I think I would have put more of the Vaseline on at the beginning. And I said that at the beginning of this part too. If I was redoing this and know now, then I would have put more of this on to reveal more of the chair. But other than that, I'm actually quite liking this. Now, I don't know how, it's quite dry, but it's still tacky, I think, a little bit tacky. I think to do the next part, I don't know if it's, because I want to put wax on this and finish it off, but I don't want to rush it. So I think what I'm going to do is, for you guys, thanks Sheila, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this completely cure over the weekend. And then I'm going to pop on, sorry guys, there is going to be a third part. I didn't want to, but I also don't want to rush it. You know, it's my first time doing this and I'm okay if it didn't work, but I also don't want to rush it just because I'm doing a live. I want you guys to see me doing this, how I would do it, and not to do it just differently because I'm doing a live. So what I would do at this point, even if I wasn't doing a live, is to step back, let it cure over the weekend, and I'm going to pop on Monday. I will do a live, probably 4 o'clock again, Pacific Standard Time, and I'm going to put some wax on, okay? And we'll go from there. What do you think so far? Is it a thumbs up on the Vaseline? And is it a thumbs up on using a block? What do you think? Thanks, Sheila. I think it's more fun to do it this way if you want a really good chippy look instead of just doing the wet distress where you get a little bit. So if you want to do a full chippy look, I think this is kind of, I like this. And what as I say, I've got 4 of these chairs, so what I might do on a different chair is the same thing, but white. And a little bit less of the colours behind, and more of just the chair behind with the white and maybe a little bit of black behind. And I'm going to do that, so maybe I'll do it as a live too, but we'll see, but I'm definitely doing the white one as well to see how that comes out because I like the chippy look on this. It looks good. It definitely looks like to me that top coat of the Cascade bluish greenish turquoisey colour has basically started to peel off in the weather. And I'm going to go, as I say, on Monday, I want to put the wax on to give it more of that look, and I want to do it a certain way and show you that way of making it look more like the paint has been chipping off rather than it looking old. So I'm doing the wax a little differently than what I usually do it. So I'll pop on Monday, watch that at 4 p.m. If you don't get a chance, watch it on replay. And if you're watching this on replay, please put in the comments #replay. Thanks for watching. Sorry it takes so long for the paint to dry to show you all, and sometimes I do have to do things in 3 parts, but I would rather you see everything than for me to cut corners just because I'm doing a live. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. Everyone have an amazing weekend. Stay safe. Goodbye.